What's good, guys? Hey, we are about to get into this thing. I just want to say welcome back to the channel. If you've been coming back to it, I highly appreciate it. All my sports guys, welcome back to Playbook Central, guys. And we are about to get right into this thing. And today we are going over what I personally think are the best 10 best QBs in the game coming into the season this season. So this is what I think. So we have number 10. We are getting into it now. Let's go. At number 10, we have Cameron Ward. The Miami Hurricane transfer QB, and last season he had 3,735 passing yards, 25 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 144 rushing yards, 8 touchdowns with a QBR of 65.2 last season, as he is quite a finesser, as he's a good QB. It's the reason why he's my top 10. And what have been the most dramatic quarterback transfer of the offseason? Washington State's Cam Ward entered the portal, declaring for the NFL draft in what now appear to have been a leverage play indeed. And finally opted to stay in school at Miami. Ward's talent is obvious. He had several incredible moments for the Cougars over the past 2 seasons and was a FCS before that. But consistency has been an issue that I will say. He threw for 3,735 yards last season, but over a 5-game winless stretch in the middle of the season tossed just 4 touchdown passes. So there was inconsistency for sure. And Washington State was very aware last season that it would be most likely his final season in Pullman. The Cougars didn't have the NIL firepower to keep him around, and the collapse of the Pac-12 is what made his departure come in the first place. So in terms of the NFL outlook, he would have been a late round prospect if he stayed in the draft. But if he improves his consistency, he could be considered a top 3 round type of player. So I think it was smart of him to stay in college this season and transfer to the University of Miami. And number 9 might surprise most of you. I have number 9, Cameron Rising. University of Utah. Rising wasn't supposed to be Utah's savior back in September of 2021. The Utes opened that season with Charlie Brewer as their starter after Baylor's transfer beat out Rising for the job. The early results were poor, however, and Utah lost its first 2 games against FBS and foes before their coach Kyle Whittingham, I believe, made a change. And once Utah was Rising's team, the Utes never looked back. So I would expect Rising and the Utahs to be good, as they did eventually go 9-1 on the season and won a Pac-12 championship before losing to a shootout against Iowa State inside the Rose Bowl, a game in which Rising accounted for 3 touchdowns and completed 77% of his throws. It was more of the same in 2022. So with Rising leading the Utes to a 10-3 record and another Pac-12 title before falling to Penn State in the Rose Bowl, over the course of those 2 games, Rising was 18-6 as a starter with 46 touchdowns. 13 picks and a QBR of 83.6. So, but for a true appreciation of Rising's value, just look what happened to Utah's offense when he missed the 2023 campaign with a knee injury. The UTs went from averaging nearly 39 points in 2022 to just 23 last season, and saw a decline of 85 passing yards per game while their touchdowns were cut in half. And I have him at the number 8 slot. And number 8, I have Shedeur Sanders, University of Colorado. And last season, he had 3,230 passing yards, 27 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 4 rushing touchdowns, and a QBR of 63.1. And Colorado's start to the season ended up being a mirage of several levels, but not regarding Sanders, who transitioned well into the FCS to the FBS. He finished 9th nationally in completion percentage of 69.3, so almost 70% completion percentage, and 10th in passing yards with 293.6 yards per game. So, and 4th in interception percentage, 0.7%, despite the team's late season challenges and that let them plummeting down back. So, Sanders set Colorado's single game passing record in his Buffalo's debut, piling 510 yards at TCU. He had 348 passing yards, more in 5 games. He had multiple touchdown passes 7 times while throwing just 1 interception in his final 6 contests. Sanders generated NFL draft buzz, especially during the first half of the season, and he finished with a team's record 3,230 passing yards and 27 touchdowns, which is mightily impressive. He will enter his first full season with coordinator Pat Shurmur, who took over play calling in November. Sanders ultimately must do his part to limit sacks and taking hits, as he had 52 sacks last season and pressured on 39.9% of his dropbacks. If he stays healthy and he keeps progressing, expect him to go top prospect in 2025 draft, in my personal opinion. And number 7, have Jalon Daniels, the QB from the University of Texas. Last season, he had 705 passing yards, 5 touchdown passes, only 1 interception, 74 passing yards, 0 touchdown rushes. But hey, he's not the most scrambler guy, but he gets the job done, and it's a reason why I have him number 7. And all he's got to do is stay on the field. In his past 14 complete games, Daniels has thrown for 3,336 passing yards, 29 touchdowns, and only 8 interceptions, while rushing for 691 yards, not including sacks, of course. He scrambles beautifully, avoiding both sacks and picks, and over the 2022-23 seasons, he produced the highest combined total QPR of any returning quarterback, defining that 14 complete game sample requires you look close enough at it. He missed a month in 2022 and saw snaps in only 3 games last season because of back issues, which was a huge reason. And this year, does it come together for him, as he has dynamic running backs, a 1,200-yard rusher, Devin Neal, and big Daniel Hashan Jr. at his disposal, and he's receiving groups is loaded with seniors. Kansas went 9-4 with backup Jason Beam starting most of the last season, and the offense should be explosive, and I expect them to be pretty well. And so Number 6, I have the Ole Miss QB Jackson Dart. Last season, he threw 3,364 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. So the expectations are extremely high at Ole Miss. You better believe it. So last year, they had their first 11-win season in school history with an impressive performance at a 38-25 win over Penn State in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, while he threw for 379 yards with 3 touchdown passes while adding a rushing score. In all, he threw for a lot of yards, and he has playmakers on his offensive end, receivers Trey Harris and Jordan Watkins, tight end Caden Prieskorn, and Harris and Prieskorn combined for 17 catches for 270 yards in the Peach Bowl. So there are questions, but I believe Dart will get it done, and perhaps they will be very successful. And number 5, I have Noah Fifita. In the 2023 season, he had 2,869 passing yards, 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and a QBR of 83.3. So that's really good. And he is 5'11", and he got other offers from his region: Arizona, Cal, Fresno State, Cali, Utah State. And he wanted to be a complete player, and he believed this school would turn him to the best possible player to prepare for the NFL draft. So he had his moments. So he had 2,869 yards and 25 touchdowns despite starting only 9 games, and he finished 8th total QBR. So I think the Arizona QB will do his thing and be a surprise for many people this season, even though he doesn't have the best weapons around him. And number 4, I have Jalen Milroe from the University of Alabama. He had an incredible freshman season campaign, and in 2023 he had 2,834 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, and he had 6 interceptions, 531 rushing yards, and 12 touchdown rushes. So he did his thing as a freshman, and you really can't ask any more than that. And when Alabama benched Milroe following Week 2 loss in 2023, few expected him to prospect as a top 5 quarterback following the season, but he responded well to the setback, developing his downfield passing skills in other areas, and helping the Tide to an SEC championship and a college football playoff appearance, as Milroe completed more than 80% of his passes in the first 2 games. And he only threw 3 interceptions on 218 pass attempts as Alabama starter with 2,834 passing yards. So as his next challenge will be adjusting to the coaching staff built by the new head coach DeBoer from the University of Washington. So as we all know, DeBoer transitioned Michael Penix Jr. into a record-setting passer, and he will develop Milroe's deep ball talent like Penix did at Washington. Milroe will need much better protection as he took 44 sacks, guys, including 6 against Michigan in the college football semifinals. So expect DeBoer to transition him into an all-great player. And number 3, I have Texas, Quinn Ewers from the University of Texas. So last season in 2023, he had 3,479 passing yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 75 rushing yards, and 5 touchdowns. So Ewers transitioned his body and his hair, of course, as he looks a lot better with the new haircut. Before last season, he dedicated himself to get better. He just did that, and finishing the season with 3,479 yards, which was 15th among all FBS quarterbacks to go with 22 touchdown passes and 6 interceptions. He helped guide the Longhorns to a 12-2 record with only blemishes of a 4-point loss to Dillon Gabriel from Oklahoma in the regular season, with a 37-31 loss to Washington in the college football semifinals. So Texas is losing 2 receivers, unfortunately, good receivers, to Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell to the NFL. But the staff brought in Alabama's Isaiah Bond, and Houston's Matthew Colden from Oregon State, Silas Bolden to help those boys and give Ewers more players on the outside. The Longhorns face a tough schedule in 2024. They have to go through Michigan, Oklahoma, Georgia, Florida, Kentucky, and Texas A&M, which is extremely tough slate. But I think they'll be just fine getting into the top. I think the playoffs are top 14 this year. So moving on, at the second best quarterback in the nation, I have Dillon Gabriel. The Oklahoma transfer from going to the University of Oregon this season, the freshest jerseys and helmets in the league. In the 2023 season, he had 3,660 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 373 yards rushing, 12 touchdown rushes with a QBR of 87.3. So Gabriel's transfer from Oklahoma to Oregon was one of the more surprising offseason moves, considered he had led the Sooners to a 10-2 mark and threw for 3,660 yards with 30 touchdowns last year. Gabriel, who spent his first 3 collegiate seasons at UCF, found a new home just days after entering portal, landing at Oregon, where he will replace Bo Nix's success story in Eugene as a blueprint Gabriel would love to follow, as Nix elevated his game significantly after heading west from, as you know, he played for the University of Auburn. So the Ducks didn't just bring Gabriel through the portal either. Dante Moore, the former 5-star recruit who saw extensive playing time for UCLA as a true freshman in 2023, also transferred for what is soon to be a development year behind Dillon Gabriel. So Gabriel enters number 8 all-time FBS passing list with 4,865 passing yards and needs 4,353 yards to break Case Keenum's record, 19,217 yards. That would require Gabriel to set a career high, but is certainly within realm of possibility, given Nix threw for 4,508 yards. So, and I have him number 2. And number 1, the best quarterback in the nation, I have Carson Beck from the University of Georgia. Last year, he threw 3,941 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 117 passing yards, and 4 touchdown rushes. So after waiting patiently for 3 seasons, Beck finally took over Georgia's offense in 2023. He led the Bulldogs to an unbeaten regular season and nearly took them back to the college football playoff in his first season as a starter. He completed a whopping 72.4% of his pass attempts for 3,941 passing yards with 24 touchdowns. after all the concerns for Georgia having a new quarterback and offensive coordinator, Mike Bobo, it ranked fifth in the FBS, scoring 40.1 points per game. This season, Beck won't have an All-American tight end Brock Bowers or receiver Ladd McConkey. Then again, he didn't have them at the disposal for extended stretches last season either. Georgia's still shocked with pass catchers. It added tight end Benjamin Urasek from Stanford and receiver Colby Young from Miami, Michael Jackson III, USC, and London Humphreys from Vanderbilt from the transfer portal. So be prepared for Georgia, be prepared. And hey, that's going to be the end of this list of the best quarterbacks, I believe, heading into the nation. And it should be extremely fun and good looking. Hey, it's been fun, guys. If you like this list of what I think the best quarterbacks heading into the nation, just comment, like, subscribe of what you think. And hey, peace out, guys. It's been a blast, and I'll see y'all in the next one.